Okay, let's play knight f3, the Italian game. Put my bishop here. Let me castle my king as quickly as possible. Okay, let me develop my knight. Now I have 3 pieces under attack. My knight is pinned. If I move my knight out of the way, I'm going to lose my queen. But I don't care. I'm going to take this pawn that is already guarded by this pawn, sacrificing my queen. Because if he takes my queen, he gets checkmated on f7. So let's take on f7. The king has to move, and knight d5 will be checkmate. And that's checkmate. I'm just going to develop and protect it. And he's playing the Roy Lopez. Now, I'm just going to keep developing. Now I have 2 pieces up. He castles his king, and I'm going to play this move, trying to get my bishop out. He's trying to move his pawn forward. Okay, so I just chased away his bishop. His bishop went back, and I'm going to chase his bishop again. Now his bishop is no longer pinning my knight. I'll play this move, pinning his knight to his queen. My bishop is under attack, but I'm not going to move away my bishop. I'm going to play h5, and I'm going for the fishing pole trap. If he takes my bishop, it opens up a file on his king, and he's going to get checkmated. He did take the bishop. I'm going to take. Now his knight is under attack. He moves his knight out the way. So all I need to do now is play this move, and he's not able to stop checkmate here. He sacrificed his bishop. I could literally just move my king out the way, and there's still no way to prevent a checkmate. I have a very nice forced mate here. I'm going to take here first, forcing his king in the corner. And then I'm going to sacrifice my rook, forcing his king to take, and then I'm going to pull my queen back, and that's a checkmate. So I'll take here, check, his king has to go in the corner. Then I'll sacrifice my rook, his king has to take, and once I pull my queen here, that's checkmate. Let's respond with e5 here. This move immediately blocks my opponent's bishop out, but I'm just going to keep developing. He's developing. Notice my knight is now pinned to my queen. He's developing. I'm also going to be developing as well. Now let's get my bishop out. Now I have 3 pieces developed. And my opponent just played this move. I'm going to sacrifice my queen and checkmate my opponent. If this works, then drop that follow. I'm going to take this pawn that is already guarded by this pawn. And if he takes my queen, I'm going to check here, and that's a checkmate. My opponent took the queen, and I'll take here. The king has to move here, and that's checkmate. I'll develop my knight and protect it. And he's playing the Roy Lopez. I'm just going to develop my bishop here though. And then once he takes, I'm just going to take back. And he castles his king. Now my pawn is under attack. Instead of trying to defend my pawn, I'm going to develop my bishop and pin the knight. But he attacks my bishop, and we're going to go for the fishing pole trap. So let's play h5. And if he takes the bishop, it opens up the file for my rook, and he's going to get checkmated. He did take the bishop. Okay, now let's take back. He pulls back the knight to h2, but that doesn't help, because once I play this move, there's no way to prevent checkmate here. He moves his rook out the way, but I have a very nice force mate. I'm going to first take this pawn, forcing the king to go over, sack my rook, the king has to take, pull my queen back, and that's a checkmate. So let's take. Now his king has to go over, we sack the rook, the king has to take, and once we pull the queen back, that's a checkmate. Let's develop our knight and attack the pawn. He develops to defend, and now we're in the Italian game. He plays d6, but let's keep developing. Now we have 3 pieces out. He develops his bishop, pinning my knight. Alright, because he's pinning my knight, I'm going to play h3, chasing the bishop away. Now once the bishop moves, I'm going to take this pawn, sacking my queen. And now that he took the queen, I'll take on f7. The king has to move, and then knight d5 is mate. So let's take here. The king has to move, and that's a checkmate. He's attacking my pawn. Let's develop the knight and protect it. Now he's playing the Roy Lopez. Against this, I simply develop my bishop. He's developing his knight. Now I'm going to move this pawn to protect my pawn, preparing to pin his knight. He castles his king. Let's just pin his knight to his queen. And then once he plays h3, you know that we're going for the fishing pole trap. So let's start by playing h5. The goal is to open the file for the rook. He did take the bishop. Okay, let's take back. Notice how this file is open. And then once he pulls his knight to h2, we move the queen to h4. And then there's no way for him to prevent a checkmate here. If he moves his rook, I sack my rook and mate him in 3 moves. Okay, he takes my knight. That doesn't help. Let's just take the bishop. Still getting mated. He takes the pawn, but that's a checkmate. Yeah, I'll develop my knight, putting some pressure on this pawn. He plays d6, immediately blocking out his bishop. But that's fine. Let's just enter the Italian game here. He's pinning my knight to my queen, but that's also fine. We have 2 pieces developed. I'll develop my knight. Now I have 3 pieces developed. And then now he plays h6. Now look at this. He's trying to prevent the fried liver attack. Keep in mind that this guy has been breaking opening principles by blocking in his bishop and making unnecessary pawn moves. Because my development is so good, I'm going to punish him by sacrificing my entire queen. If he takes my queen thinking that I'm blundering, which he quickly did, then I'm going to play the move bishop takes f7. The king has to go to e7, and knight d5 is a checkmate. So let's take on f7 here. The king has to move, and that's a checkmate. He develops this knight. I'll also develop this knight. Oh, he's playing the 2 knights game. Before I develop my knight though, I'll start by developing my bishop. Let's see how he's playing. He puts the bishop here. The bishop actually belongs here or here. So that's already wrong. But let's play d6. The goal is to develop my bishop, pin his knight. He castles his king. So let's pin the knight. I want to play knight here to apply some pressure. He plays h3. I'm going to go for the fishing pole trap. Let's go h5. If he takes my bishop, he could be getting checkmated very soon, which he did take the bishop. Let's take. Now keep in mind, all I want to do is put my queen here. Now, once I put my queen here, there's actually no way to prevent a checkmate here. Well, he took with the queen. Usually they play rook here, and then I have a very nice force mating 3. But taking with the queen is, that's just a checkmate. e5. Let's develop the knight, hit the pawn. He protects the pawn, and we've entered the Italian game. He plays d6, but that immediately blocks his bishop in. But that's fine. I'll just develop my knight. Now we have 3 pieces developed. He pins my knight to my queen. I'm trying to set up a checkmate here. Now keep in mind, if I immediately sack my knight, his knight is going to take back. So I'm going to play h3. And now that he pulls his bishop back, now I'm going to sacrifice my knight and say, oh no, my queen. And then once he took the queen, this is just a forced checkmate because I'm going to take on f7. The king has to go to e7, and knight e5 is a checkmate. Okay, normal stuff. Let's hit this pawn. He defends it, blocking out his bishop, but let's still join the Italian game. He develops his bishop. Let me develop my knight. Now, after he takes his knight out, I'm going to play knight here, which immediately threatens to fork on f7. He castles his king. I'm going to play d3, preparing to develop my bishop. And then he plays h6, attacking my knight. But we're going for the fishing pole trap. He took the knight. Let's take. Now I'm attacking his knight. He pulls his knight back. Now, I'm going to play queen h5, and there's no way to prevent a checkmate. He plays bishop here, but that's just a checkmate. Let's develop, hit this pawn. He defends it. Let's develop our bishop, some Italian game. He plays d6. Here, I'm just going to castle my king. This is the most principled thing to do. And then he plays bishop g4. Now, keep in mind that I'm already predicting me sacking my queen and mating him here. So to set this up, I'm going to put my knight here. Let's see. Okay, now watch this. Keep in mind, he's already applying pressure to my pin piece. Now, if I take here and he takes my queen, that's how the mate happens. And let's just go for it first. Okay, I guess he's seeing it. We do the legal mate in Puerto Rico. Now the king has to move, and that's a checkmate. Okay, we're going to defend our pawn. He's playing the 2 knights. I'm going to play bishop c5. Let's see if he's going to sack. He didn't sack, so let's play d6, just guarding our pawn. Okay, my opponent castles the king. I'm going to start by developing my bishop to g4, pinning the knight to his queen. And then once he plays h3, attacking my bishop, we're not going to be moving the bishop. We're going to be going for the fishing pole trap. And if he takes that bishop, he's going to get checkmated so quickly. Well, he took the bishop. Let's take, attack the knight. He moves the knight out the way. And once we play queen h4, there's nothing he could do to prevent a checkmate here. He moves the rook out the way, but look on this beautiful checkmate in 3 that I'm going to sack my rook and do. I'm going to start by playing queen takes f2 check. The king then has to go to h1, and then I'm going to play rook takes h2, sacking my rook. The king has to take, and that's when I'm going to pull my queen back to h4 and deliver the checkmate. So here's how it looks. It's queen takes, check. Notice how the king has to move, and then I'm going to sack my rook on h2. The king has to take it, and then that's a checkmate. Okay, we hit the pawn first, he defends, we jump in the Italian game. He plays d6, which blocks out this bishop, but it's fine. Let's just keep developing. He pins my knight to my queen. I'm already predicting a legal's mate. Now, you guys are always asking, why can't we just take here first? And that's because the knight takes and guard the bishop. And that's the reason why we play h3, forcing his bishop away. And then once his bishop moves away, then we take on e5. Because now if he takes the knight, which he did, now we're able to take his bishop. And this bishop is not really hanging because we're able to play queen to b5 check, which hits the king and hits the knight at the same time. He blocks the check, we take the knight, and just like that, we're ahead by a pawn. Okay, I'm just going to develop my knight and protect the pawn. He's playing the Italian game. We're going for the 2 knights defense. And then he develops his knight. Knight takes e4 is already good for me, but let me just develop my bishop normally. He castles his king, and I'm going to try for a fishing pole. So instead of playing the principal d6 to develop my bishop, I'm going to break principles and put my knight here. It adds more pressure to his f2 pawn, which I'm not able to take as yet, but I wanted him to play h3. Because once he plays h3, I'm going to play the move h5. And this is me going for the fishing pole trap. Because taking the knight is completely losing, which he quickly did. So once we take back, he has to keep his knight on f3. Because if he moves his knight, my queen swoops in, and there is literally no way for white to prevent a checkmate here. Usually they try to move their rook out the way, which he did, but I have a very nice mate in 3 here. I'm going to play the move queen takes f2, forcing the king to go to h1. Then I'm going to sack my rook on h2, forcing the king to take, then pull my queen back to h4. And that's a checkmate. Let's go into it. So we play queen f2. The king has to step over. We sack the rook on h2. The king has to take. And that's a checkmate. Follow for more videos like these.